Hello, adventurers! I'm Gray, and welcome to my first analysis of, well, anything. This week there wasn't a new blog update because according to Simon, also known as Hypixel, the team is busy with GDC on the way and with Hytale production, but they were kind enough to give us this meme. That won't stop us from analyzing Hytale info though, and we're going further than ever before. I'm recording this before the analysis, and I don't even want to know how long this video is. We're going to analyze every part of the Hytale trailer, scene by scene, going over everything I could possibly mention. From every block shown to every creature or plant, I want to try and mention everything I can. Additionally, since I know a lot about Minecraft, I'll be making a lot of comparisons between the two to see what was improved upon. However, while there have been several blog updates giving more information about certain things, there's still a lot of info that is unknown, so I can't give a name to everything I see. Instead, I'll often give speculation instead of straight info, and I'll let you know when it's just speculation. So, without further ado, let's hop straight into it! So to get started, if you haven't heard of Hytale before, I'm honestly amazed that you found this video, but it's a new game being created by Hypixel Studios whose goal is to combine the scope of a sandbox with the depth of a role-playing game, and it is very clearly inspired by other games like Minecraft. And this makes sense because Hypixel was originally founded by two guys, Simon Collins Laflamme and Philip Touchette, sorry if I butchered these names, known as Hypixel and Resis respectively, who started out by making custom maps in Minecraft, and eventually created the largest server within Minecraft, and in all of online gaming, it won an award for it. Basically, Hytale is made up of 3 different game modes, which is an adventure game mode, a minigame section, which is basically online servers, and creative modes, such as model making, texturing, making maps, and all that type of stuff. There's a lot of info going in depth about all sorts of game modes and different features of Hytale located on its blog, which I'll have linked in the video description if you want to read that for yourself. And I'm going to point out some of the things that they go into detail on the blog, along with some new things that they haven't even revealed, and some stuff that weren't even added to the wiki, which will also be linked in the description. This first shot of the trailer should be instantly recognizable to anyone who's played these sorts of blocky sandbox games like Minecraft. Let's take a quick look at the environment first. As you can tell, everything is made up of cubes, or at least cubic sort of shapes. So you can break anything, you can build anything, and use these cubes to make yourself a giant castle or your own house, and all sorts of things. I can see grass blocks going on here, 2 shades of grass actually, and I can also see 2 shades of dirt. There's clearly some stone on the left along with some mossy stone, and there's water in the background flowing down a little river going down the mountainside. At the far background you can see some snow-covered peaks along with what looks like a blackened sort of stone on the back. I can't say what name these blocks have, so I'm not going to say what type of stone it is, but it is a different type of stone from the usual gray stone you can see scattered around. When it comes to plants, you can clearly see some brown mushrooms on the left side, along with a red flower, some ferns, and grass on the grass blocks. And you can see trees on the right side of 2 different types. One looks more spruce, one looks more oak, and there's also 2 different colors of leaves on those trees. These trees are of course made up of types of woods, with regular wood blocks, along with what looks like wooden walls that they use to create a sort of thinner branch-like effect. I'm not quite certain on that one though. This scene gives us a good look at prefabs, or prefabricated content as they call it, that can be found in Hytale, such as the broken down bridge or wall that's shown at the mountain on the left side, along with what looks like a more complete bridge way far in the back connecting 2 different mountains. Now let's get to the more interesting stuff going on here. We can see 3 characters here, 2 humans it seems, and one of what I'm assuming to be a dark elf. They haven't given the name of that race yet, but they have confirmed that that race, the one with the magic staff, is a different one from humans, and there will be a variety of other races in the game when it releases. The Dark Elf, as I'll call her for now, seems to have a magic staff in her hand, which is one example of a weapon type in this game. There's magic weapons, there's melee weapons, there's some ranged weapons, and the staff seems to be one type, could potentially be an ice staff, but we'll have to see later on. We can see an example of a melee weapon on the right side with the knight that's on the ground. This knight seems to have an iron sword in her hand, along with some iron armor, whereas the grizzled guy next to her seems to have leather armor on, along with a shish kebab in his hand, showing that you can make a variety of different foods. I'm curious if there will be a whole cooking system going on here, where you can make many different types of foods, because shish kebab is fairly complex for the first food stuff that they're showing. Additionally, you can see a shield next to the warrior leaning on the log, which I'm assuming is going to work kind of like Minecraft shields in that you can hold it out in place of your weapon in order to block attacks and then swap to your weapon and quickly hit the opponent. And you can see a little red vial on the ground, which I'm guessing is a red potion, which could potentially be used for health because red potions tend to be healing potions. I should add, the shield actually has a symbol of Gaia on the front of it, it seems, which is basically the goddess of this world that humans, Quebecs, and other different races that we'll get to look up to. Two items I find very interesting in this scene are found on the right side, including the banjo and the backpack. And the banjo is interesting because it's an instrument, and I'm curious as to whether or not we'll be able to play them. I'm guessing that there will be a variety of instruments in the game, and this is just speculation by the way, but I'm thinking that there will be many different instruments in the game, and we'll be able to play random songs on them, and that could be a whole lot of fun. Maybe you could start like a little band with a variety of instruments and getting your friends on and just playing all sorts of stuff. That could be really cool. Also, the backpack right there, if it's functional, could expand your inventory storage for when you're going on adventures. So you craft a backpack, put it on your back, because you can put items on your back in this game. It's been confirmed in blog posts. And maybe it'll add to your inventory storage. Looking at the scene in motion, you can notice several other things going on here, such as how expressive and animated these characters are. For example, the knight that's on the ground is sort of inspecting her sword, lifting it up to look at it in more detail, while the dark elf is walking by and waving at the adventurer on the log, which I believe is an example of an emote. In a blog post, they said that there will be animations you can activate manually, and I'm guessing that this means there'll be emotes you can turn on, such as waving, smiling, that type of stuff. Additionally, you can see how the eyes sort of move around to look at interesting things, the eyebrows move up, characters even blink to make it seem really realistic and expressive, and I think it's a really good mix to show how the characters are expressive without entering Uncanny Valley territory. I think it looks pretty good in this scene. Additionally, you can see birds flying through the air in the background, and these look like pretty big birds. Like, they look different from the ones that have been shown in blog posts so far. They don't look like they're small enough to be pigeons or sparrows or anything like that. However, they're not detailed enough to tell what they are, so for now they'll be unknown big birds. One other little detail you might notice is that the gown that the Dark Elf is wearing sort of flaps a little bit as she walks, and that's an example of how long clothes moves as you walk or with wind and things like that. It's just a nice little detail that makes the world feel more alive. The next scene shows what appears to be a chase between a fox and a rabbit, and if you think they're playing, it's a lot more sinister than that. Anyway, there's been some debate as to whether or not this is a rabbit or a jackalope, because a jackalope is a mythical rabbit-looking creature that has horns on its head, or antlers. And as you can see in this freeze frame, this rabbit clearly has horns on the top of its head, which is why I think it's a jackalope. However, the wiki now says that it's just a rabbit. We'll just have to wait for official confirmation as for what it is later on. This next scene is all about farming, which is a great thing to compare and contrast to other games like Minecraft. But I'm going to keep the same order and start out by looking at the blocks on the screen. So there's a path next to the farm here, which seems to be made up of two different types of blocks. I'm guessing that one of them is gravel. I'm not sure about the other one. It looks sort of like cobblestone. It could be something like stone path though, because it looks quite different from the cobblestone that's part of this farmer's house. And speaking of the farmer's house, it's made up of several different blocks, including what looks like birchwood planks, or some sort of whitish wood, along with certain logs. It has windows at the top, with little wooden bars going in between them, and I'm assuming there's several different types of glass windows you can make in this game. You can see the first look at roofing. This one is thatched roofing, made up of, I assume, wheat or something along those lines, with some wood beneath the thatch to hold it up. There's also torches on the walls of the house, showing that you can place torches on walls and things like that for lighting. Additionally, there's some storage containers right out front of the house. There's barrels, and there's crates from what I can tell. I'm not sure if these will actually be used for storing anything, but at the very least they add a nice sense of decor, like you would be storing things in them. There are a couple blocks and structures that you could probably see better if we continue the video in a moment, but for now I'm just going to point them quickly out. You can see an anvil pretty close to the front of the house. It looks a little bit more detailed than Minecraft's anvils, and I assume that they have a purpose too, potentially to hammer in some bars or maybe make weapons and things like that. I don't think it'll work the same way as Minecraft anvils in that you do enchantments and stuff like that. We haven't seen anything like that in this game so far, so I think it'll work in a different way, more like a real anvil. Additionally, you can see what looks like a furnace right next to the anvil, and that might be to heat up metals, or it could just be an aesthetic thing to add a little bit of light, along with some flavor of sort of a blacksmith. There are some fences right next to that anvil holding in that area and sort of sectioning it off from the pathway. And behind the fence, you can barely see a little bit of a bench going on back there, which I assume is a craftable furniture item made out of wood. In front of the anvil, you can see our first look at slabs, which they go over all these block types in a blog update, but yeah, you can make slabs and things like that. And at the far left, which we'll see better in a little while, you can see a little piece of a fence post, except this is a standing signpost, it seems, where it looks like it's a bit of a fence, but the sign is hanging off the side of it, and it's attached to it on a hinge. We'll see that better in a little bit. Now let's move on to the plants in the scene, because there's many of them going with this farm. But starting off simply, we have berries right in front of the camera, berry bushes. And I'm guessing you'd be able to break these bushes, or maybe just harvest them without breaking them, in order to get their berries, maybe to feed yourself, or maybe even to feed some animals. They might enjoy berries. On the field itself, you can see carrots sticking a little bit out of the ground, just a little tufts at the top. And you can see eggplants right behind those carrots that seem ripe for the picking. There's some cabbages growing, which would provide some good salads if you harvested them and combined them with eggplants and carrots and things like that. On the right side, you see pumpkins, and they're at various stages of growth, and this is interesting because if you compare this to Minecraft crop growing, especially with something like pumpkins, this takes up much less space than Minecraft's. Pumpkins in Minecraft are a full block wide, whereas these seem to be able to be planted much closer together, thus making it more reasonable to plant a ton of crops in a small space. Also, the farming here seems to be much more fleshed out than other games like Minecraft, because the farmer in the middle of the field is holding a watering can in a unique animation. And it looks like he's sort of watering the field, giving them the water it needs. This is much more realistic than something like Minecraft, where you just place a water source block next to your crops and hope that it spreads to all of them. Here you actually have to take care of the crops yourself, water them using a watering can. I like that a lot more though. It reminds me a bit more of Stardew Valley. And this whole scene reminds me a lot more of Stardew Valley because there's even a scarecrow in the middle of the field, which I'm assuming is not actually to scare off crows. We haven't seen anything about crows so far. It's going to be mostly an aesthetic thing, I think, more of a decoration for a farm, but it adds a nice little touch that I like. Additionally, you can see some wheat growing in the background, which I assume could be used to make things like thatched roofs, maybe to make some bread. We'll have to see how that goes. There's even some sunflowers to the right of that, and to the right of that, what looks like could be cotton. I'm not sure if that's cotton or if it's a flower, but right now, from the white finished phase, it seems, it looks like cotton to me, like you could use that to make clothes and other things like that, or maybe string. And cotton's available in some Minecraft mod packs, and it's used to make things like string and cloth, so I'm hoping that you can do something similar to that here. Additionally, you can see two other farmers here, one sitting on the porch on some stairs, eating a carrot, and it looks like he's already taken a bite out of the carrot. It's sort of flat on the tip rather than pointy, what I'm curious about is, would you be able to stop eating food partial way through, and then the food will look different after partially biting into it? Is that a thing you can do here? Because that's a pretty detailed mechanic that something like Minecraft doesn't have. Additionally, you can see a farmer girl in the background carrying a log with both hands, like it's some heavy building equipment. I'm not sure if that's an animation for this trailer. Heck, I'm not sure if everything in this trailer is actually in-game footage. I'm assuming some of it's specific for this trailer, but a lot of it does look like finished stuff that's in-game. Behind the farmer girl, you can see the roof of what seems to be a coop, which was showed off in another blog update. And the reason why I think it's a coop is because the chicken is located right next to it, and the coop would be where the chickens stay. There's a couple other little details I want to point out. On the far right side, you can see what looks like a wagon carrying a watering can, along with some hay and some other things inside of it. I'm curious as to whether or not you'll be able to pull those around and have them as sort of a traveling chest that you can store resources on. It looks to me like a decoration for now, but it does have wheels on it and everything, so maybe you can pull it around. Maybe you can attach a horse to it and have a horse-drawn carriage. I'm hoping you can do stuff like that, because vehicles are confirmed to be in the game. And finally, here's something that I haven't seen anyone talk about. It's not on the wiki, it's not anywhere, and it's another type of bird. You see that blue bird at the top right? Once you freeze the screen, you can clearly see the blue bird. This hasn't been talked about anywhere, and this is, I think, is a new type of bird in the game. I'm pretty excited about this, though, because that means there's going to be tons of different birds here, and I'm sure that there's more in all these trailers and in all sorts of concept art and screenshots and stuff that people just haven't noticed yet and have yet to add to the wiki. So here's a secret find, a bluebird. Someone add this. If not, I might add it to the wiki. Playing the scene out allows you to see a few more things better, including that sign I mentioned earlier, which actually turns out to be a leftward-facing arrow sign, which you could use to point to different directions. Additionally, you can see a windmill in the background made out of wool for the sails, along with the basic building blocks, everything else. And you can see more of the chicken coop, where there are several chickens inside within a fenced-in area. You can also see a dog lying on a log, which is a nice rhyme. Next, you can see a couple close-ups of the scene we showed earlier. Nothing too interesting or new here, other than some more high-res images of what was going on earlier, along with a cute doggo. Next, we see a lumberjack who's okay, who sleeps all night and he works all day. What I'm curious about, though, is will you be able to punch trees to knock them down, or will you have to use correct tools to break things? This lumberjack seems to be using an axe to chop down this tree, and later on we'll see some other tools being used for a variety of other things. However, will you need to use that tool, or can you still chop down trees with your fists when you start out the game to gather resources and things like that, like you can do in Minecraft? Additionally, I like the animations that they're using on breaking all sorts of blocks. It looks like there's a different animation depending on what you're trying to do, what tool you're using, what block you're trying to break, and it really adds to the immersion. We can see more of those unique animations here with this girl mining up this ore, but to see more detail, we might have to freeze. With our first glimpse inside the caves, we can clearly see one ore very prominent right in the front as the girl mines it. I believe this is copper ore, and I do know that certain ores have been confirmed to be in the game. You won't find it anywhere online, it's not on the wiki, no one really talks about it, but I've been researching pretty much all of the concept arts and screenshots and things like that, and on one about weapons, there's clearly copper, iron, thorium, and cobalt weapons shown, which I assume are all craftable from ores you can find in the world, with copper being the most common, then iron, then thorium, then cobalt. So I believe that this is copper right here, and in the back you can kind of see glowing in the background, some white ore. My guess is that that's iron. One last thing I see here is a table at the back that looks like it could be a crafting type table. It has a hammer on top and some drawers, and it could be used to store some resources and make some things. I'm not quite sure what the function of it is yet though. Starting once again with the blocks in this area, we can see a different type of window, this time made out of what looks like iron bars going through, separating it into 6 sections. You can also see some cabinets sticking out of the walls, one of them holding what looks like a green potion looking vial on it, other ones containing books. What I'm curious about is, are bookshelves a separate block, and do these blocks come with the books inside? Or do you place the cabinet and then fill them up with the books? From what I see, because the 3 different bookshelves all have the exact same books in all of them, I think it's a set block for now. You just craft a bookshelf block, you place it on the walls, and you can mix and match that with other cabinets that you could put your own items on, like that little green potion. Another decoration block here are some shelves that are sort of hanging off the wall, held up by chains, and they store 2 other potion-looking containers. However, they're larger than the other one. One of them green once again, but the other one looks more like a clay, sort of tannish container, and I'm wondering if you can store things in them. We get another good look at the anvil, which we only saw briefly earlier, but this time it's put into action. He's making a sword on it, and we can see 2 completed products on the right side, one shorter sword and one longer, showing that you can make different types of weapons using the same material, such as iron it seems in this case. I assume these different weapon types will have different ranges, but different weapon damages, and all sorts of other characteristics on them. There are a couple other blocks here that seem like functional blocks. We see that same crafting table that we saw down in the mines earlier. I'm assuming that this is going to be used to make a ton of things on it. Since it's something that you would take down to the mines, you'd use it wherever you are. It might be the crafting table of this game. If you look a bit to the left of that though, you can see what appears to be a potion brewing station, which is more advanced than the brewing stands in something like Minecraft it seems. It looks like you can store potions right on the top shelf of the brewing stand. You have access to them. She has one potion in a really big jar right to the side, and you can use them to brew a variety of different things. Additionally, we get our first look at cooking, with a little cooking stand to the left with a pot on what looks like a heater or a stovetop. And there's also an apple to the left of that that's being cut up with a knife right next to it, along with some spices stored on the upper shelf. This really has me curious about how complex the cooking mechanics will be in this game, because clearly it is more than throwing food into a furnace. Like, you're actually throwing food into a pot and making meals out of it, and I'm curious as to whether or not there will be a nutrition system where eating a variety of food can make you healthier, or eating the same food all the time will make you less healthy. I'm really uncertain, but I'm hoping it's something really interesting and fun to learn about. We can see a couple more furniture items, such as a chair, which has a little bit of cloth hanging off of it for a little bit of decoration. And we can see a table right near the left side that seems to be used for writing different things based on how it has an ink and a feather pen in it, along with some paper. One last decorative block I want to point out is what appears to be a weapon stand right behind the anvil, and it currently seems to store a sword and a dagger. I'm assuming that if we have weapon stands in the full game, we'll be able to store basically anything there, including shields, bows, staffs, swords, daggers, basically anything. Oh, there's also a chest, but we all know what chests do. What? Is there something I missed on the screen? Oh yeah, that's right. There's a kitty! Oh, look at that nice cat. I'm sure there'll be many different cats in this game, similar to dogs, and you'll be able to pick whatever pet you want, and we'll have a whole happy pet family. It's gonna be great. Hey, that's a nice sword you made. Congrats, man. There's only two notable things in this scene. One is something I mentioned earlier, how you can carry things on your back. The guy in the front has a backpack, whereas the girl in the back is carrying a quiver, and I'm curious as to whether or not these will have a functionality into them, or if it's just for decoration. Now, who might I be talking about for the second thing? Well, there's an owl hanging out in that branch, and that's another type of bird in this game, and I'm glad owls are in here because I happen to love owls, and Zach happens to love owls, so this should be a little nice addition that my friend should enjoy. Oh, and also you can take a look at how rain looks in this game, along with the particle effects they make on the ground, which look pretty nice. These next few scenes pass by pretty quickly, but I'll be sure to pause at all of them so we can look at them in detail. Here we have what looks like a magical grove or clearing, with several deer here, one buck, one doe, and the doe is drinking through some clear water, and this looks like a really magical place, like a nice place to hang out at. There's some blue leaves going on here, some blue flowers going on in the trees, we have some glowing blue mushrooms, which remind me a lot of Terraria's blue mushrooms, along with some glowing pink mushrooms, and most importantly, we get a good look at the night sky, where we can see some stars along with the moon, which appears to be a waning crescent, I believe. It's about to be a new moon. It's going to be really dark pretty soon. But as of right now, it's very magical and nice. Next we have a view of the lush jungles beneath Zone 4. And if you don't know what I mean by Zone 4, there's a blog post talking all about the world of Orbis, which is the planet that we're on, along with its zones that make it up. I'd recommend reading that on your own, but I'll do a brief summary of them here. Zone 1 is the basic one that we should all know from other games like Minecraft. It's made up of plains and forests. Zone 2 is very deserty. It has deserts and savannas. Zone 3 is made up of snowy areas and ice everywhere, whereas Zone 4 is the lava biome. And you may wonder, how is this Zone 4 if Zone 4 is the lava biome? Well, underneath Zone 4, in the cave systems, is life. There's plant life, there's water, and there's living animals. And as you can tell by the stalactites hanging from the ceiling here, this is clearly underground, so it must be underneath Zone 4. This is a rather zoomed out view, so we can't get a good look at the creatures going on around here, but let's take a look at the blocks and plants first. There's not really many new blocks, but you can see many different jungle plants. There's jungle trees with its own logs and leaves that are hanging down, along with different jungle ferns, including a red jungle fern. I don't know what the names of these plants are, but I do know that they fit the feel of a jungle very well. You can tell that the house that's in the background is made up of a different type of wood than the ones we've seen before. I'd assume that it's jungle wood, along with jungle wood roofing, or potentially jungle plant roofing, jungle thatch perhaps, made up of green plants. The most important thing here, though, are definitely the creatures here, the inhabitants, the NPCs, the Slothians. These are clearly Slothians, and the reason why I said I didn't know it is because these aren't on the wiki at all, which I'm surprised that they're not because they do appear in the concept art. Not with their pictures, but there's lots of iconography that they exist in the art, and if you put the pieces together, these are clearly the Slothians in the jungle of Zone 4. I'd assume that these are a friendly tribe. They'd probably assist you if you found them, whereas deeper, if you go further down in Zone 4, there are a lot more dangerous creatures as shown in the concept art. So these guys will provide you some assistance whenever you get to them. They're probably quite kind and probably quite slow and laid back too, as you can tell by the one fishing over on the edge of the shore. There's a couple more quick things to point out. Near the back, I can see what looks like a very compressed forest of thin wood. I was thinking this could be a bamboo forest, though it's not clear enough for me to tell. For now, it might just be safe to assume that it's jungle wood, though just keep in mind it could be bamboo. Additionally, I can see some of what looks like big mushrooms growing on the sides of trees, which would make sense since mushrooms and fungi are a lot more prevalent in jungles. And it could be full-on mushroom blocks, kind of like Minecraft has mushroom blocks. Finally, and this is just speculation, if you look to the roof of this cave, you can see some blue glowing crystals or ores up there. And my guess is that that is cobalt. And the reason for this is that cobalt seems to be a later game ore based off of the progression shown in those items I pictured earlier, and this is Zone 4, which is a later game zone. Plus it's on the roof of a cave, which is still underground even though it looks like it's not. So it's still feasible that it could be cobalt right there. So that's my guess. Here we get a good look at the Quebecs, which is a race of sort of nature creatures. They're kind of like trees, and when they grow up, they even become like the trees that they resemble. There's a lot of lore about Quebecs in the blog updates that you could read on your own. Basically, they're tree creatures, and that's all you need to know about them. They live inside of trees, and they look like trees. It looks like they tend to live by the riverside, as you can tell by the river running through their village. There's also some lily pads and lotus flowers growing in the river, along with some cattails, or reeds you could call them. Looking at the cattails, you can clearly tell that they're submerged in the water, but the water is kind of flowing around them, which is very much an upgrade from what Minecraft was, and Minecraft's kind of improved upon that over time with Update Aquatic, but it still looks like a really nice touch to allow your plants and blocks to be submerged in the water like that. Other than that though, there's not too much to point out here. There's of course Quebec items going on with the blocks. You can see some Quebec ropes holding up the Quebec lanterns, along with their unique furniture set with doors and all sorts of other things, tables and platforms and ladders. There's unique furniture sets for all the different races and areas, so that'll be a fun thing to discover as we go. I forgot to mention earlier, but the trailer is kind of taking us through the 4 zones right now, starting with Zone 4 and the underground jungle located there, and Zone 4 is known as the Devastated Lands, by the way. We'll find out why later on in this trailer. Then we went to Zone 1, which is known as Emerald Grove, and that's where the Quebec village is located, the first friendly NPC tribe you'll likely meet. They'll help you on your adventure in Zone 1. Here is Borea, or Zone 3, which is the icy, snowy zone, as you can tell by all the snow and ice everywhere, of course. And look at those 2 polar bears having a good time in the snow, swimming through the ice. Just a whole lot of fun going on over there. You can also see the plants are covered in snow, at least in the snowy areas, and you can see some snow-looking ferns kind of hanging down from the top. At least I believe those are ferns. They don't look like icicles to me. And further on in the back, you can see some evergreen trees, or pine trees, which come in 2 different shades it seems, and probably have their own wood, potentially spruce or something similar to that. Also, there's a nice cabin in the background over there, a log cabin that should keep you cozy and warm in this cold climate. Hey, isn't this a nice view? This is actually Zone 2, also known as Howling Sands, and it's the one I didn't mention earlier. It's an arid zone that is lacking in a lot of water, other than things like rivers that can cut through the mesa like this one here, and it's generally made up of deserts and savannas, such as the one shown here. Other than just the nice view, you can see a couple of new blocks going on here. I'm assuming that there's some sandstone all over the walls, along with different colors of either sandstone or clay, going by Minecraft standards. There are clearly some cacti on the right side, which I assume will be prickly if you run into them, so that's probably a bad idea. Additionally, you can see some antelopes kind of galloping together on the other side of the river, and they look like they're having a lot of fun. Once again, there are some big birds flying throughout the sky, but it doesn't zoom in on them enough for me to be able to tell what they are. So I'm guessing that these are a new type of bird, but we don't know what they are yet. Looking at the player character walking around, he or she's carrying a big stick, which I'm not sure what it is. It might be a sort of weapon, kind of you whack something with both sides of the stick, or it could just be a walking stick that helps you walk faster, or just a visual thing that you can hold for design when walking around. There's a couple smaller things that I can't quite tell what they are. If you can, you could tell me, because they're a little bit too far away for me to really tell easily. At the top right, I can see what might be another animal, potentially the saber-toothed tiger that was already confirmed. However, I can't quite tell from here whether or not they are. On the same cliffside that the gazelles are located at, I see some small things next to a tree, and they look kind of like vultures from a distance, but they don't really move much, so I can't really tell. Also near the top right, I can see what looks like an orange crop or block or something way off in the distance on the mountainside. Could be pumpkins, but I don't think so. But I can't exactly tell what it is from here, so for now that remains a mystery. One last thing I can point out though is the big, unique looking tree in the middle. It's different from all the acacia trees located around it, and I believe that this is a baobab tree, which was actually planned to be added to Minecraft in a Savannah update. But it looks like Hytale's going to be getting it first? And in Minecraft it was going to have termites in it that could mess with wood structures and do all sorts of naughty things. So perhaps this baobab tree will also have termites located in it, so you might have to be careful around them. Ah, it's the Scarix! Here's another intelligent race in Hytale, but this one's a mean one. The Scarix are a bad race that used to enslave another race called the Firans, which I'm not sure if they show up in this trailer. I don't believe they do. However, that's part of the backstory for them. They're basically bad guys, they're enemies, as you can tell by this fighter here with his bow getting ready to take down a Scarab warrior. You can see a mix of different types of Scarabs right outside of their nest, such as Scarab locusts, of course there's a Scarab warrior, and I believe you can see a couple Scarab workers too, and Scarab larvae. Within the nest there will be a brood mother, which is basically the mother of all the Scarabs, along with egg sacs. Of course those won't be visible from the outside because both of those are very precious to them. Additionally, you can see what looks like bone blocks on the far left, which could be craftable out of things like bones, and you could probably find them on fossils or just randomly used as building structures such as outside of the Scarab base. This next section is best shown in movement since it shows off some of the PvP in Hytale, but before anything else, you can see a green glowing mushroom, which is a new type of mushroom I hadn't pointed out earlier, and that's really the only new block that I really want to point out. For the combat, you can tell that the player, the warrior right here, keeps on swinging his sword repeatedly. It sort of has arcs left and right in a repetitive motion with no cooldown between hits like there is in something like Minecraft. Additionally, the enemy swings in different arcs that it seems like you can learn the attack patterns to and dodge accordingly. And keep in mind, the PvP is very much not final in this game. All the combat is not final. They're still working on it, so this could change later on. But as of right now, it looks like they swing in different ways. And he's fighting a Chork sentry, by the way. There's a blog post about Chorks, which is an enemy NPC tribe that you can look up on your own. But based on his color, it looks like he's fighting a sentry. And he can dodge his axe swings whenever they're vertical just by jumping to the side. Additionally, just like in Minecraft, it appears that the shield can negate all damage if you use it with good timing. So if you swap between the shield and the sword, get some swings in and block, you can deal some massive damage over time while still protecting yourself. This next section of building goes by pretty quickly, so instead of showing still images of everything, I'm just going to slow it down to about 10% of its normal speed. You can kind of see a transition between starting off building something, just placing down blocks one at a time, to getting a basic base set up with a clay furnace, all the basic things, a little log cabin, and this is like showing how you can build with friends and go on journeys and build things together. Here they have a more established base with a farm, a tiki torch, they have some more modern roof styles and chimneys and pathways, and they keep on building and building until eventually they have this castle with, most importantly, and I'll probably freeze it here, a hot air balloon. There's many new blocks being used here that I have no idea what the name to them could be. There is this dark brick, there's a sort of reddish, more crimson-y brick, there's a what looks like a stained clay, sort of a dark purple block. The roof is a red shingles, which I'm pretty sure red shingles is a pretty good enough name for it. One thing we can see is that they're able to place their bow and quiver just on the ground as decoration. So maybe you'll be able to take your swords and your weapons and stuff and just place them on the ground if you want and it'll lie flat. Or maybe it's because they dropped it. Maybe when you drop items for people to pick it up, instead of being like a spinning item like it is in Minecraft, it just lays flat on the ground and you can right click on it to pick it up or something like that. That would be an interesting way to do it. Additionally, it looks like there's a bow target practice area where they're shooting arrows at targets made out of hay. And it looks like the arrows kind of stick there for quite a while because they're kind of hanging on the walls and hanging on the hay. I assume they don't stay forever because having so many entities on screen at once, like if you're just spamming arrows, could lag out things over time. But it looks like they do stay for a little while on walls and stuff. Look at that hot air balloon though, look at it! You'll be able to make all sorts of vehicles, and I believe this is the first real vehicle we get to see in action in this trailer. You can fly though. You can make a hot air balloon, you can fly into the sky. This is amazing. I love vehicles in games like this. Like Minecraft barely had any vehicles, it just had a horse and like a donkey. Like if you could make all sorts of things like hot air balloons and more in this game, that would be absolutely fantastic. Here's what appears to be a boss battle versus some giant Yeti monster who's able to pick up the ground and throw it at you, which is really cool in my opinion. But some other things of note here are that the adventurer fighting the Yeti is riding on what appears to be a ram, which is a new creature. You might be able to shear them for wool or something like that, or sheep might be in the game too, though those haven't been confirmed yet. Additionally, our hero is carrying a fire sword, which is a sword of special properties, this time of flame. And it's taking some sort of MOBA or MMORPG mechanics where you can get swords of different elementals, different powers that do different effects, maybe cost status effects on the enemies or interact with the environment, which is a really cool idea and I really like where they're going with that. I just want to say, look at this water effect, man. I love water in games. It looks almost idyllic, it's really nice. And here's our little patch of paradise on a remote island where you can see the sunset next to the mountain of another island. And on this little paradise, you can clearly see coconuts on the left side, a close view of them, which I assume can be cracked open and probably eaten or drank for some nutritional value. You can get a good look of the boats of this game, which I assume you can sail out to sea and do all sorts of things while on them, such as fishing, which someone is actually doing right now in the middle of this little cove. Obviously on a tropical island like this one, there's palm trees, and there's one clearly visible on the sand of the peninsula. Additionally, you can see all sorts of blocks and structures, such as tiki torches and barrels and chests and treasure in the sand at the right side. And it looks like the docks and the fences that make up the dock are made up of palm tree wood, which would explain why they look like a tropical type of wood. Zooming in on that motley pirate crew hanging out around the campfire on the top of that little hill, you can clearly see some piratey weapons going on there, such as scimitars and things like that. And their lady they have sitting down on the beach seems to also have a sort of gold encrusted weapon. Can't quite tell what it is, but it seems to be a rarer treasure encrusted weapon. Another thing that I haven't seen posted anywhere on any wikis or anything like that is the parrot that is clearly sitting next to the pirates. That is very definitely a parrot, so that's a new type of bird that's been discovered. Oh boy, this underwater section is so dense. I don't even want to attempt at naming all the fish and coral down here because I'll definitely get it wrong. But I will go over what I do know. On the left side, you can clearly see a pufferfish, which is really cute how it kind of puffs up as you go by and turns sideways in a derpy way. Another cute thing is the reference at the right side to Finding Nemo, with the two clownfish along with a royal blue tang swimming alongside each other. That's not a coincidence, that's clearly a Finding Nemo reference. As for the other fish, I can tell that there's a largemouth bass, and I see two other types of fish, one yellow, one sort of white with black stripes. I don't know exactly what they are. You can tell me. All I know is that Minecraft calls these sort of coral reef fish tropical fish, so I'm just going to call them tropical fish for now as a catch-all phrase. Oh, also there's some catfish at the bottom. Those are clearly catfish, so I'll name those. Looking a bit more closely, I can also see another purple fish kind of blending in with the red coral on the left side. I don't know their name either, but that's a new fish. There's also a crab far in the background, which I believe we'll see more of later on. There's lots of screenshots of crabs though, so that's a very clear thing in the game. As for some other creatures, I can see some sea anemones on the right side, potentially a sea cucumber at the bottom, along with some sea stars lying along the sea floor. When it comes to coral, I have no idea what names I should give them. Minecraft has 5 different variants of coral with different names such as tube and brain and all sorts of stuff, but they're different colors than even the ones shown here, so I'm not going to attempt to name them at all. I'll just say that there's green, there's blue, and there's red that's shown on this screen here so far. Additionally, there's the usual sort of seagrass and kelp and stuff like that. Oh, and when I was talking about the coral colors earlier, I meant the colored blocks. There's also what looks like dead coral blocks, though it might just be a gray coral. And when it comes to the coral plants, I can definitely see red, green, blue, purple, and yellow from this scene here. Shows some of the treasures and danger you can encounter under the sea in this game, but before anything else, I'll go over some things that weren't quite in the last scene. You can see some red seagrass on the bottom, along with some regular seagrass, and there's a clearer picture of some of the fish, crabs, and the largemouth bass once again. At the top right, you can also see what appears to be tree mushrooms, which remind me of Subnautica's like big mushroom biome, where mushrooms are kind of growing on these trees that grow up into the air. Of course, the main attraction here is the shipwreck, which there will be plenty of things like this under the ocean for you to explore and scavenge for resources, maybe find some hidden pirate booty. But it appears to be guarded by sharks, hammerhead sharks to be precise, which I'm not sure if they'll be hostile right away. Sharks aren't normally that hostile in real life. However, since this is a video game, they likely will be, but I'm just making a guess here. Additionally, even though it doesn't show it in this scene in particular, there are mermen in the game that appear to be a hostile race that could defend treasure and things like that, though I believe that they're more a swamp creature, so we might not see them in the ocean. I can't believe I forgot to mention the diving suit. Our intrepid adventurer here is wearing an oxygen tank, flippers, and goggles on, and it looks like he's fully prepared to go scuba diving. This is very different from Minecraft, because in Minecraft, your oxygen is only increased by enchanting your helmet, and it's kind of unrealistic, like there's nothing covering your face or anything like that. It looks like in Hytale, you'll be able to craft your own scuba diving set with your own oxygen tank, maybe it's expandable, maybe not, I don't know, and go underwater with it. And you probably have limited oxygen based on your oxygen tank. This reminds me a lot of Subnautica, and I like this a lot. though there's a little bit more booty than Subnautica, as you can tell by the chests over right next to the shipwreck. Let's take a look at this roller coaster in action a couple of times before I pause it at certain points. But as you can tell here, you're able to ride minecarts like you can in Minecraft. You place down the rails, get on the minecart, you go on an adventure. However, this time it's different in that you can jump on your own while you're in the minecart to make it over gaps. So you can make more complex roller coasters where the player actually has to react to things while riding, kind of like Donkey Kong Country. Here, our adventurer is going downhill into what is clearly a dangerous area, as told by that sign, and you can see 2 ores on the walls, which I believe the blue one is cobalt, and the more copper-looking one is, of course, copper. Look at the expression on his face. But also, more than anything else, look at the way he's lighting the way in front of him. He just put a candle on the brim of his hat. Now that's what I call courage. This next scene shows many more ores, with the green one clearly being thorium. However, the red ore is completely unknown. I have no idea what that is. It could be what's used to make something like the fire sword, though. And then the gray one is, of course, iron. However, I just want to say, look at those little, like, white-looking heads in the background. Those are definitely bats based on how the bat's eyes are glowing at the top left, but that's kind of creepy. It reminds me of Herobrine from Minecraft. Also, you can see some more copper at the bottom. This looks like a dungeon entrance. There's not too much to point out other than that the door is much larger and fancier than doors I've seen before, and there's also some nice decorations around here, such as the pillars and the pots going on, and also the skeleton. That's a really nice touch. Man, all this time I forgot to mention that there's ambient lighting in this game, and what that means is, when this adventurer carries a torch around, it lights up his surroundings as he holds it. So basically you walk around holding a light source and it'll light up around you. Which is a nice feature that I've wanted in base Minecraft for a long time, but it's just not there. You can only get it using a mod called Optifine, which is an easy to use mod, but still. Here are some goblins, which I don't believe are considered an intelligent NPC tribe. They're mostly monsters, but they are able to use a variety of tools and bombs, as you can tell from the one right in front here. You can see a variety of different goblin types here, with the main one being what looks like a suicide bomber. You have some that's holding a big sword, some that don't have any equipment, one looks to have a pot on its head or something like that, and it looks like they'll just attack you in hordes whenever you go to their nest or their den, wherever it may be, likely underground. But more than anything else, I love that goblin on the right who just looks at the main goblin and not looking down, and then just falls into a gap, and just look at its face, like look at how scared it is as it falls. I'm gonna need to play this in slow motion because it really shows off how expressive the characters are in Hytale. Here's an Ember Wolf found in Zone 4, the Devastated Lands. I'm not sure where the name came from, but that's what it's called in the wiki. I don't think it's a confirmed name though, because it also has Hellbeast as an alternate name. It has a pretty cool animation and looks like a frightening foe. Though you can also see some other things here, such as new birds that I can't quite tell what they are, but I'm pretty sure they're new because they're native to Zone 4, and we haven't seen any Zone 4 birds yet. Additionally, there's a blood red moon. It looks kind of like a blood moon. And there's also a lot of spontaneous fire going on around here, potentially setting shrubs and other plants on fire that are growing here. If you have arachnophobia, look away, because this is a spider's nest if I've ever seen one, and this is one frightening white spider. There's cobwebs everywhere, which I assume you get stuck on if you walk into them. There's some ores around here, because this is clearly in a cave, along with some glowing blue plants growing off the ceiling. The most interesting thing here, though, are what's encased in the cobwebs on the right side, because if I play it in slow motion, you can see that there's clearly something trapped inside of it, some creature or something. And I'm not sure if you can free them or get treasure from them or anything like that. It might just be an aesthetic thing. Or maybe you can get trapped in them. We have another big bad boss right here, this time looking to be some sort of golem or ogre. I'm leaning more towards ogre here, though it's kind of hard to tell because we don't see under his mask. He has some skeleton minions though, and it appears to be skeleton soldiers potentially, which are found in Zone 4, so this might be a pretty late game dungeon. And that makes sense because you can see the fire at the bottom right that's sort of representative of Zone 4. Also, that skeleton on top of the throne seems to be having a pretty good time up there. What I'm interested in is, will the bosses like this drop the weapon they're holding? Because that ogre is using one giant sword. Like, that would be a really difficult thing to carry, but if it's like any MMO I know, once they drop a sword, it'll be a lot smaller than it appears like they're holding when you're fighting them. so maybe it'll drop that nice dark metallic sword, and that'll be a really powerful weapon. Additionally, you can see some more pillars and stuff like that. That's not too important. But the new thing you can really see here are chains hanging from the ceiling, which is a nice dungeon-y touch, which reminds me of the dungeon in Terraria quite a lot. Just like the last combat scene, I want to show this one in motion so you can really see how the weapons work. And in this case, you can finally see how a magic weapon attacks. This fire staff, it appears, shoots a fireball from a ranged distance. It can shoot from quite far away and deal magic damage at range. I assume several other magic staffs work in similar ways, such as shooting ice balls at enemies, or maybe void magic, and it will deal magic damage at a distance, which is a really nice way to deal damage. You can also see a mace being used here in what appears to be a Link-style spin attack. Hiya! Yeah. The skeleton on top of the throne room seems to just be looking down upon them like he's some king over here. Other than that, though, there's not too much more to tell other than there's a dramatic boss fight with an ogre, and hopefully they can take him down and get whatever precious loot he drops. Actually, I did notice a potentially really interesting detail about combat here. When the fire staff is used on the ogre right on the head, you can visibly see the ogre flinch and turn its head sideways like it was some sort of critical hit. And what this may signal to me is that things like bosses might have weak points that you need to learn and target in order to deal maximum damage, a la Monster Hunter or many other games where you're fighting big bosses. And this may make the combat system much more fleshed out for boss battles and make them really interesting in learning their weak points. Heck, maybe different elemental magics will deal more damage to certain bosses, such as fire magic on an ice dragon, for example. This could lead to many developments here. So after beating bosses, you definitely get some treasure from some sort of treasure room, probably some rare items or weapons inside of a chest, and I just want to reiterate, I really like the expressions that they give the characters. For example, the smiles that they get when they unlock treasure and find loot, it's just really nice. Additionally, there's a couple more blocks that I can maybe point out here. I don't know what they're called, but there's dungeon-looking stone at the top left, along with some cobwebs that are kind of filling in the corner. Additionally, you can see another type of torch, which looks to be held in sort of a stone torch holder, and a new type of pot that you can kind of see in the background. Plus, the chest looks very ornate in this scene. The rest of the trailer gets into the juicy stuff, where it goes over a highlight reel of various different features of the game, and there's so much detail to unpack here, so I'm going to slow it down. Before anything else, let's take a look at what it looks like to spawn into a new server. And it looks like you kind of come through a blue portal looking thing, or a phase gate, I don't know how else to describe it. Additionally, if we zoom in on this girl, you can see her jump off the roof and turn on a flying device that looks absolutely amazing. It's just a propeller on your back and you're just flying. It's like a jetpack. And we're going to see more of that in a moment. Honestly, there's not much left to see from up here. This is a pretty wide view and we get a closer zoom in a moment where we can see more detail. One thing of note is that there were actually several YouTuber cameos in this, with their Minecraft skins being thrown into this world, and I'm going to point out all the ones I know, though I'm sure there will be many that I missed, so if you notice anything that I missed here in terms of cameos, be sure to tell me, because I'm interested in them. But the first one is front and center right away, which is Dan TDM, also known as the Diamond Minecart, who's actually the biggest YouTuber who grew off of Minecraft, I believe. He has like over 20 million subs, and I'm actually subscribed to him. He's a pretty cool guy. If I pause the screen here with our protagonist mid-jump like some sort of off-brand action hero, we can actually see several things going on. You can clearly see some picnic tables, which I believe will be a craftable furniture item. You place it down, umbrella on top and all. But the picnic tables have several things on top of them, such as cups and newspapers and glasses and even what appears to be a salad. This might just be a decorative choice, however, maybe some of these will have functions too, like you can eat the salad off the table or maybe drink some liquid from a cup you place down. Either way, these tables seem to be very flexible in what you can put on top of them. Additionally, I'm not sure if I pointed this out earlier, but players can clearly sit down in chairs, benches, and I remember earlier in the trailer there was even someone sitting down just on a block on their porch. So I think that'll be another type of emote where you can easily sit down and do stuff like that. As for some blocks and features that weren't shown before, I can see what appears to be a new flower, that's a yellow flower, sitting in a new block, which appears to be a plant pot block. It blends in with the stone around it, however, it has dirt in the middle and you're able to plant something on top of it, which seems to be new. Additionally, the castle at the far back has white stone along its walls, which I don't believe was shown before, however, I don't know what it's called. The most eye-catching feature here is the portal in the background, which looks like the portals that are used to enter portal dungeons, which are talked a bit more about in blog updates. However, just looking at it here, this is likely the way you use to go to different parts of the server, such as minigames or survival mode, things like that. It's basically the teleportation gate, and if you ever played on the original Hypixel server on Minecraft, it has a similar thing except with another portal. So since this is their new game, they can have different types of portals, and this one is blue rather than the purple in the original Minecraft server. And finally, out of the corner of my eye, I can see a character that might be a new race. No confirmation, I'm just getting my hopes up right here. But this character seems to have ears on top of their head, like not on the side, but on the top, potentially like cat or dog ears. So it might be an anthropomorphic, like cat girl, cat guy type character, or dog or whatever. I'm hoping that it's something like that because that's a very weeb thing to have, and I think it would be funny. But it's likely just a hairstyle, but we'll have to see. This next section has my favorite cameo of the entire trailer, and the only one I noticed right away when watching the trailer the first time, which is the Yogscast. Lewis and Simon from the Yogscast, also known as Zephos and Honeydew. These are the main YouTubers I grew up watching. I have so many good memories with them, but that's a story for another video. My history of watching their videos is very long, and I could probably tell my own whole video on that. Other than them though, you can see a couple new colors of cloth, along with 2 new emotes. One of them is a guy dancing, and the other one is a purple-haired girl laughing about the guy dancing. I'm assuming she's not laughing at him, but she very well may be. Oh, and as we browse all of these characters, feel free to look at their clothes and see how you like them. I'm not going to go over every single piece of clothes that these characters are wearing. There's a ton, and there's going to be hundreds if not thousands in the full game. But you can just take a look and see if you enjoy any of them. You can see the emotes at work here, along with another one at the background of a girl clapping, which hasn't been seen before. Oh, another YouTuber cameo, this time of Stampy Longhead. He's one of the most family-friendly YouTubers you could imagine, and he grew really big in the Minecraft days. I never really watched him that much back in the day because I was busy watching the Yogscast, but I kinda wish I did because he's such a great guy. But you may be wondering, how is this Stampy? Stampy has a cat skin in Minecraft, a yellow cat, and this is just some human. Well, I believe this is a skin of Joseph Garrett, who is the guy playing Stampy, the guy making the YouTube videos. And they put him in here, along with a Stampy icon on his shirt. Because if I zoom in on that, you can clearly see that's an icon of Stampy Longhead. It's a nice little reference though, and I like that he's cameoing here. Stampy also seems to have a nice little doggo by his side, but this doggo is different from the last one. This one has a much darker back, whereas the last doggo had an orange back. What this confirms is that there are going to be multiple variations of dogs, if not multiple breeds of dogs, within Hytale. Once again, the table has several things laying on it, including a cup, some plates, and one with a nice looking dessert on it that I really wish I could eat right now. I'm quite hungry. One thing you might have noticed are the statues that are in front of the portal back there. These statues all represent different minigames that will be on this server, which from left to right is Bed Wars, which is based off of the warrior who's holding a sword in his hand and a foot on a bed. Next we have Build Battle, with the builder here carrying blocks with him. We have the Paintball Man with a paintball gun ready to snipe their opponents. To the right of that, we have a Skeletal Warrior ready to take out our heroes in a battle between the walls. Then we have a Sniper with a bow doing the classic takedown on the sky bridges of Sky Wars. And then finally, at the far right, we have a survival games expert who has the Blitzstar and is ready to take down all their enemies. The more interesting thing about these statues though is the icon right beneath their feet, which these seem to represent different minigames located within this server, which I assume is the official Hypixel server on Hytale, because it looks just like the Hypixel server on Minecraft. As a matter of fact, these 6 icons are exact matches to official icons used to represent Hypixel server minigames. If you go to the Hypixel server website and click on the Games tab, you can see these exact icons on there. So from left to right, the minigames are Bed Wars, which is currently the most popular minigame on Hypixel. It has been for a while, and I absolutely love Bed Wars. It's probably my favorite minigame on the server, and I've had tons of fun times with that one. The next one to the right of that is Build Battle, another fun game mode about building things quickly and better than the enemies. The one to the right is Paintball, which I'm happy that they're bringing back, because Paintball was a fun game mode on the Hypixel server when it first released. I really loved it, but people stopped playing it. And so I didn't really have people to play with, so I couldn't really play it that much anymore. It wasn't as fun without tons of people wanting to play it, you know? So if they can revive it here and reinvigorate it and make it really fun, I'm all on board for trying that again. To the right of paintball is the walls, a classic Minecraft game mode revolving around surviving in 4 different corners, gathering resources until the walls come down, and then it's an all-out PvP duel, along with some loot in the middle as represented by that crystal in the middle. To the right of that one, you can't quite see it in this scene. However, if we go back a couple of scenes, you can get a glimpse of it, and it is Sky Wars, which has historically been the most popular minigame on the Hypixel server before Bed Wars. You spawn on different sky islands, you're trying to get to the middle, or kill the opponents, or camp, or use whatever strategies you have to knock people off and win the game by being the last survivor. And that's a fun mode, and I'm hoping that they have more ways to play it, like 2-man teams, 3-man teams, 4-man teams, because I want to be able to play with as many friends as I want to. And finally, we have what appears to be Blitz survival games, which was the survival game / Hunger Games variant on the Hypixel server, which is faster than other servers' Hunger Games. Hopefully they can revamp it and make it really fun to play here, because I haven't enjoyed playing survival games in quite a while. There's always so many restrictions on it, like you can't team up with friends, and you can only have a team of 2 people, because there's like 2-person survival games, but I want to play with my group of 4 friends and go out and kill some things. So hopefully they have options for, once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 players. I'd prefer up to 5-player teams, because I have 4 friends who get on sometimes, and that would be a lot of fun. The final YouTuber cameo I've spotted in this trailer myself is on the right here, and it's Preston, previously known as Preston Plays, also known as TBNR Frags, though he has about 5 channels, so there are many different names there. And I went back and took a look at him now, because he was an OG Minecraft YouTuber who I used to watch a lot, and looking at him now, he is doing really well. Like, he's not just playing Minecraft anymore, he plays tons of different games on his different channels, along with doing real life stuff, and I think he has basically a company now, because he's making tons of views, like hundreds of thousands to millions on every video, and those are consistent videos on all of his channels, pretty much every day. So, good for you, Preston. I'm glad you've been able to do well for yourself. You're way more social media savvy than I am. Also way more clickbaity, but that's fine, that's just how YouTube is nowadays. And I'm excited to see what you do in Hytale. The next few sections are about PvP minigames, starting with Sky Wars, and I know people are very picky with PvP in games like this, so I'm going to slow them down, play them repeatedly, and try to point out different details each time it repeats. So basically, this is an overview of Sky Wars here, which, if you haven't played Sky Wars before, you start off on your own separate islands. You can see all the different islands here, and everyone has their own little starter house. You get loot from chests, and you try to eliminate your enemies and be the last survivor. And generally in Sky Wars, there's also loot in the middle that's better than loot everywhere else. However, people are always battling to get to the middle first. So there's a war going on in order to get the loot in the middle and try to be the victor in this battle. As you can tell, there's a lot going on at once here, so I'm going to show you the things that require movement to really point out, and then I'll pause at certain frames to show you some specific things that don't require movement. First of all, that guy on the right who's building on the cobblestone bridge, or not even building, he just goes to the end, and that's my spirit animal. Look at him repeatedly crouching. What a man. The ultimate Sky Wars taunt. You can also see on the left side, whenever it does the zoom out view, there's a character that launches themselves with an explosion, which I'm assuming is some sort of TNT explosive or dynamite or something, because it's not confirmed to be TNT like in Minecraft. But it doesn't damage them, it seems. They're just using it to launch. And I know that Sky Wars on the Hypixel server had experimental game modes, such as a TNT-based game mode, where you could place it down, it would blow up and immediately launch you from island to island. There might be a similar thing here, just built into the base Sky Wars game mode, since they don't have to worry about Minecraft mechanics to make it work. So that might be an interesting development. Now let's look into the different battles that are going on here in detail to see what we can glean about the combat. The answer is not that much, and also the combat is not final in this game, they're still working on it, but this should give us some ideas. And the first thing you'll see is the knockback. You take quite a bit of knockback when you get hit in this game. As you can see by the battle between the knight and the purple-haired lady, she first hits him in the shield, which does very little to no knockback and seems to negate all damage. But she doesn't have a shield, so when the knight hits her, she goes flying backwards quite far, I believe farther than Minecraft's knockback goes. And if you look to the very far back, a lady jumps down from her sky bridge to hit the guy with the hammer, and he immediately goes flying off the edge. You can also see one sneaky guy trying to go for the mid while they're battling each other. That would be my strategy in this game. While the focus is definitely on the battle in the middle, there's also some action going on the left side. You can see a guy running with what appears to be a katana, or at least a sword that hasn't been seen before, along with a girl building a sky bridge who somehow hasn't been shot off by our hero who has a crossbow in his hand, which I don't think I mentioned before, but yeah, there are crossbows. Getting a leg up on Minecraft a step earlier, once again Hytale. You can also see a little assault going on the Sky Island to the left for a split second, with one player sneaking up on the other guy about to knock him off the edge when he isn't paying attention. The zoomed out section goes by fast, so I slowed it down hard to show you what's going on, and the assault is happening, as was expected, as the lady flies through the air with the explosions. The katana man decides to chase after the block lady, but she turns around and decides this is a bad idea. The battle at mid is still going on as per usual, while our hero is firing his crossbow at apparent nothingness, missing horribly. And look at these guys fighting at mid as that one guy once again goes for the treasure chest that I'm sure have really great loot there. There are two characters at the back, one running towards mid and one nonchalantly doing nothing back on his island. And finally, we have this poor soul who has no idea what he's doing and has made a horrible jump, like the typical Skywars player, I guess. Minecraft Hunger Games, the original Battle Royale. Well, if you zoom in here, once again, it's very brief, but you can see the tactics people are using. You can either run away right at the start, or you can go for the cornucopia with tons of weapons and battle enemies right away, like Dan TDM seems to be doing, or you can die like that guy at the left. But there is one really interesting tidbit shown here. The guy who died on the left there, likely killed by another player, dropped his items when he was killed, and he probably only had one sword after dying. And that sword is dropped like an item that you drop in Minecraft. It's an entity. It's a spinning entity. And you can clearly tell it's something that was dropped and that you can walk over to pick up. Now, earlier on in this video, I speculated that perhaps when you drop an item like a crossbow or a sword, it lays flat on the ground like it should be there, like you laid it there, like a regular item would be laid on the ground in real life. However, that appears to not be the case. Whenever you die or whenever you purposefully drop items, it'll drop as an entity, it spins, you can clearly tell it's there, and you can pick it up just like you can in Minecraft, which is another interesting parallel between the two games. This confirms another classic Hypixel game mode within Hytale, that being Mega Walls. And Mega Walls is a large-scale variant of walls with 4 teams of 25 players competing to eliminate the other teams. I don't remember exactly how it went, but I remember there being something like a wither for each of the teams, which acts like a save point. And your goal is to kill the enemy team's wither so that they can't respawn anymore, and then kill them one by one. So it's sort of a search and destroy type thing where you're trying to kill them at the same time. It's a fun game mode, and I've really enjoyed it, and I'm glad they're bringing it back. But from what I can see here, there are 4 teams once again, blue, red, green, and yellow, and each of them has theming relevant to their team colors. So they have insignias and capes that are their colors so you can tell who's on your team. And I remember they said in a blog update that they could force players to wear certain types of armor or certain clothes in order to fit the theme of a minigame or a style of a server. And it looks like this is putting it to the test, where it themes everyone based off of their team so everyone knows who's their allies and who's their enemy, and they can participate in a large-scale battle. And this looks like a lot of fun. I'm excited to try this out. I'm not going to try naming all the blocks or anything here either because it's so zoomed out and so fast I can't tell what they are and I wouldn't have names for them anyway. But this just looks like an interesting game mode. Hypixel Studios has gone to great lengths to promote the modding and customization capabilities of Hytale, and this just showcases that in one example. So they've said you can make your own game modes, stories, minigames, and basically whatever you want, models or whatever in the game, and this shows off some of that modding in a top-down, twin-stick style shooter game mode, which tasks you to become a warrior, a gunman, and you're going around the field shooting down the scarix using your laser blaster, and this seems really cool. Like, this is just one example of a type of modded game you can make. And I'm expecting some huge stuff to be made here. Like, man, this reminds me a lot of something like Little Big Planet, or, of course, Minecraft, in that people are going to be making whole new styles of games within this game. Want a top-down shooter? Here you have it. Want a hack and slash? Someone could probably make that. Want yourself an FPS shooter? I bet someone could add guns to this game. Want a racing game? Someone could probably add cars. There's infinite possibilities here, and this is an example of it, and I really like it. And as you can tell, they're shooting now some scarix, and scarix seem to have a little animation whenever you shoot them, where they flip onto their back and kind of flail their legs once they're defeated, which is kind of funny. Other than that, there's not too much to point out. I suppose there's some red glowing mushrooms, and some alien looking plants. probably made specifically for this game mode, or this could take place on one of the other Alterverses in the games, which are basically other planets that exist. For example, this could be on Nexus, the evil planet. Here's a look at Hytale Model Maker, which is a modeling, animating, texturing software for Hytale that's going to release right as the game releases, and is also completely going to be free. So if you want to download it, not just for Hytale, but to do your own thing, it'll be available. I'm not going to talk too much about Hytale Model Maker here because I already did a video overviewing it. There's a blog update on it, and it went into much more detail than I'll do here, so you can check that out on my channel. Though you can see quite a few more buttons here. If you're an animator, you'll probably understand more of what this stuff is. I'm not an animator, so I'm not going to describe every single little function in here. But this is based off of a past program called Craft Studio, which is available now. So if you want to tinker with it a little bit, you can download Craft Studio and see what all these functions and things do. But this is a little bit different. This was made for Hytale, and whatever you make in here can be directly imported to Hytale, so it makes it really convenient to make your own things. However, even though I said I wouldn't look at every little detail, that doesn't mean I can't look at the most important things here. And the most interesting thing is on the left side, where it has the different categories of models and things to work on, with the broadest category being NPC here, which Cacti is a part of. However, Cacti also counts as a beast, which means that it's not an intelligent NPC tribe like something like the Quebecs or Fearans or Slothians are. Instead, this is like the other animals, and the other animals it shows are antelopes, which were pointed out earlier, bears, polar bears. I don't think boars were shown earlier, so that's one that's appearing on here only. And then if you go down to the bottom, you can see deer, which was shown, Ember Wolf. So that's where the name for that fire creature, that fire monster earlier, came from. I assume they saw it in the Hytale Model Maker, and that's how it got its name. However, I will say it's not 100% confirmed that the Ember Wolf is that creature. It is most likely. So I'm not going to discount it or anything. It's pretty much guaranteed to be it. It's just not 100% confirmed. And below that, there's also Fox. And other than these creatures, you can see the tools for animation, setting up keyframes at the bottom. You can control many different things, including even the petals. On the right side, you can see the textures and the model with its nodes, and you can customize everything from its hands to its needles. And at the top, you can see the different sections you can work on at the same time, such as the run animation, the walk animation, the idle animation, and the model itself, where you can adjust its texture and model. Basically, you can do tons of things at the same time, collaborating with other people who are doing different things with you, and it's a really great software for collaborating and making things for Hytale. This next scene shows a little bit more about NPC interactions. As you can tell, we're ready to take on this giant stone golem, or corrupted golem I believe it's called. In first person mode, I don't believe I mentioned earlier, you can switch between third and first person, but we're about to fight this boss, who is being controlled by what looks like a corrupted sword or a void sword, likely created by Varen to control this golem and turn him evil, and the whole land around here seems corrupted, because purple is the power of corruption in Hytale. Now, once we beat the boss, he'll probably drop the sword, and we'll get it as a weapon that we can use, I'm hoping, because bosses are meant to have super epic loot. However, the most interesting thing here is that we're surrounded by Quebecs, and they look like they're ready for combat. They've got their leaf armor and their razor spears, and they're about to take down this golem with us. What this means is that we can recruit NPC allies to help us complete objectives, to beat bosses, to do all sorts of things. And I'm thinking, at least for this one, you need to have a specific quest for the NPCs to help you, and technically you're supposed to be helping them to take down this golem for some purpose or another. I'm not sure if you can just go to NPC tribes and request them to aid you in whatever you're doing. It might be a quest-specific thing as of right now. However, maybe in the future we'll be able to just request NPCs who we're on good terms with and have them aid us in battle. This map screen is something I've gone into great detail over already in a blog update overview. You can check out that video or read the blog update on your own. It has a lot more detail, but I'll still go over the major details here. So you can clearly see some icons on this map of this Temple of Gaia, the Garden of Elements section specifically. And there's a legend to explain all of these icons, or at least most of them. So it shows story dungeons and an icon that looks sort of like some sort of tower of a castle. There's also world dungeons and what appears to be a cave-looking icon, though I'm not quite certain about that one. There's the Temple of Gaia, which has a Gaia icon, along with a world gate that has a portal icon. The spawn point, of course, is a house. A point of interest looks like a tent for now, because I suppose tents are points of interest. Then there's the player, which is an orange circle with an arrow directing the way I'm looking. And friends, which is a different colored icon that also has an arrow pointing in a different direction depending on where they're facing, along with waypoints that you can set on your own. And the waypoint instructions are on the right side of the map, where you can place a marker with left clicking, and you can place 2 of them. You can also remove the markers. You can change marker settings, which I assume is things like color of the marker, and you can zoom in and out on the map. However, there are certain icons on the map that weren't shown on the left side, the legend. For example, there's a chest-looking icon that I'm assuming is just loot that you can find, rare loot. There's also a boss icon, and this time it's to defeat the golem, where you can select the location, and you can share location, I assume with friends if you want them to join you in this battle. I'm not sure what selecting does, maybe it sets a waypoint there, not sure. But the goal is to help Quebecs to defeat the corrupted golem. So in this case, you're in a quest to defeat the golem, the Quebecs likely assigned you to do this quest, and you're helping them in battle. And the icon for the Quebecs is a green player icon. I originally thought that these icons were friends that you had with you, like real-life friends playing the game with you, helping you in combat. But it turns out, after seeing this trailer again, that friends in the legend could also mean NPC allies who are guiding you in battle, and the icons will likely be a different color depending on the ally. Like Quebecs could be green, but for example the Firans, which are the fox-like race found in Zone 2, the desert zone, the Howling Sands, they could have an orange icon. Though that would be a little bit difficult to tell since our player icon is orange, so we'll just have to see. They might just all be green. I might just be making this up, which I definitely am. And at the top we can see another icon, and I'm not quite sure what it means. It has sort of a point, and it forms a diamond-looking shape, but I have no idea what it is right now. As you can tell, unlike Minecraft maps that you have to hold in your hand and aren't very detailed at all, this is more like Minecraft mini-map mods that you could get, where it shows a lot of detail in the surroundings. You can zoom in and out and look at what you've explored. However, from what it seems like, there's a black cloud covering any area that you haven't explored yet. So you have to go around an adventure in order to find out what's in a new area, rather than just browsing the map. And the last element I want to point out is just the extra quest screen at the bottom of the map telling you what to do. And next is character customization. Wait, slow down there, Nessie. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to go through this frame by frame, aren't I? Hello everyone, and welcome to Gray's Wardrobe. This took way too long to make. I slowed down every single frame to about 5 seconds long. If you want to pause at each of them to look at the clothing in more detail, you can, because I'm not going to talk about all of them. However, you can take a look at whatever pace you want. I'll go over the basic UI elements here. At the top, there's adventure, minigames, and servers, which are quick access. My avatar, which is to customize yourself, which is what they're on now. And settings. And it looks like you can do this stuff at any time, so you can change your appearance whenever you want. There's also a chat, a friends list, and a username, along with your player icon. As for the character creator, you have several different categories, starting with the general character body type, skin tone, and options to reset the skin. You can be masculine, feminine, black or white, whatever you want to be. You can also change your haircut, you can change the eye style and eye color, along with your eyebrows and eyebrow color and things like that. You have facial hair, you have what's considered a shirt and a jacket. And the jacket goes over the shirt, of course. You have pants, and you have socks/shoes. Then you have anything that goes in your hands, such as gloves. Next are hats, and then glasses, and then ear styles. And finally, your expression. At the bottom, there's also the options to either shuffle your character to be completely random, or what looks like an undo. If you click on something you didn't want to and lost where you were, you can undo and go back to a past self. You can also discard your changes or save them. And that's all for now. Hopefully you enjoyed looking at all these clothing options because it took forever to do, and I'll talk about them as they flash past. Here's a bald feminine lady, looking pretty nice right there with a pale skin tone. And now here are different hairstyles. You can tell that they're sorted by tags and categories, and they have many different colors. This is the fringe as an example, and in a sort of brownish, reddish sort of hairstyle. And this is a lighter brown here. So I was just trying out different types of hair. Next we have different eye shapes and eye styles. It looks like there's only 3 right now. Normal, large, and small, as is shown right here. You can once again customize the eyes to be a variety of colors that are different than the ones that are just available for shirts and stuff. And here's another bigger eye style. Moving on to the eyebrows, you can change them to many different formats. For example, you have plucked, which makes them go upwards a little bit. Or you have the classic shaved eyebrow, which is, of course, what people all go for today. But what people really go for today are the angry unibrows, like Squilliam Fancyson. Okay, so moving on to facial hair. Next, we have several types, including the long goatee. And I'm pretty sure I missed a couple of frames in this, but whatever. It took way too long to do anyway. And then we have the different shirts, including t-shirt, long sleeves, gold trim. Very descriptive, not very catchy at all. And there were some frames that I, for some reason, repeated. It was really annoying to try to do all this stuff, okay? Colored sleeves, of course. Colored sleeves are a thing. You can color them, and that has Gaia on the front. Here are some pink striped long shirts. Look very stylish for modern fashion. And this is pretty cute. It has like a Sailor Moon cat on the front of it. And you can change the color even of the straight tees. You can change it to be yellow or green or whatever you want it to be. Here's an orange yellowish shirt with the Sailor Moon cat on the front. And then we get to pants. And there are many different styles of pants. Once again, you can browse them, pause, take a look if you want. This is a sort of jeans, more fancier type brown pants. And this is more of an adventure-y, rugged pants. Has a belt kind of on it, a yellow dot, I don't know what that is. This is what you'd wear in the summer, matches the shirt pretty well. It almost looks like you're not wearing anything though, so you might want to be careful about that. This is what I always wear, the sweatpants, because I am very fashionable and trendy. Nice shoes. She's wearing some sandals. Sandals are also very fashionable nowadays, I've been told. Sneakers not so much, but everyone wears sneakers anyway. Nice green sneaks. Now we have hand things you can put on. Some of them bracelets, most of them gloves. There's not too much variety of them yet, though people will be able to mod in whatever they want. We take a look at jackets, and there's a variety of them. One of them looked like Santa Claus, but you can even turn something like a Santa outfit brown, so it looks more like a modern outfit. You have a puffy jersey, which, let's be real, that's a North Face jacket. You also have some fantasy clothes, literally it's called fantasy, along with a bulky shirt, long bracelets, of course. And then the mini leather, which makes you look like a cowgirl or cowboy. Right now they look like they're wearing a kimono or a bathrobe. Now here we have some happy leprechaun, whatever. And that's a nice flannel shirt. Andrew would be proud wearing it right over the cat. And a long jacket, also known as jacket long for those who speak in reverse and are dyslexic. And we have different types of glasses. That one looks like my old ones. My new ones are less square. A nice scarf. I do like scarf, and there's aviators too. This one looks more like a office woman type glasses, which you can once again customize to be whatever color you want. Matches your shoes if you want. And I accidentally repeated a frame again, but you know what? Actually, no, I didn't, because it changed the left side accessory screen. Okay, so you have different earrings, including beaded hoops, and you can customize these in a variety of different colors that match the accessory. It's not just solid colors here. We have hats, including the Halo, which I'm not sure if it's Halo 1, 2, 3, or Reach. Whatever, they're all going to be in the Master Chief Collection anyway. And then we have the bandana for those who want to join a gang, a floppy beanie for the modern hipsters, and Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, the classic, except not as anime, which means not as good. That's a pretty cute hat, though. I like this hat, this little dino sort of hat. Now this is a feature I'm excited about, because I love to play games and interact with friends while watching and sharing videos together, and right now the one game that we tend to do this in is Tabletop Simulator, which is basically a board game, and we can set up a tablet in that game and watch videos together on that. This seems even more interesting than that, though, because you can watch videos from YouTube, Twitch, or an inline video player, as shown here, in this theater, and whatever you want to play, you can watch together in Hytale. You can have a whole crowd of random people, or what I'm hoping is, we'll be able to just watch things with our friends, and we can interact with each other and battle each other if we feel like it, or do some random stupid stuff, and it'll be just a whole lot of fun to share videos together here. As I was saying though, I hope that we don't have to be in this specific theater to be able to make these types of video players. Like, if you're listening right now, Hypixel Studios, I want us to be able to make these types of screens so that we can watch them in private worlds, with just me and some friends, or just whoever you want to show it to, not having to be on a public server with a movie theater. Now, if you make the movie theater something you can just find in the world, like in a private survival world, and you can watch it with friends privately that way, that's fine too, but if we could craft it and put it anywhere, that would be really nice, just to throw up a screen in whatever house we make and watch it together. Now, one thing that was pointed out on the blog is that there are several races shown throughout the trailer here, and lots of them can be seen in this theater. And it does say that many of these races will be playable, potentially all of them. So if you see any new races in this trailer here that I'm going to point out in this theater, all of these could potentially be playable in the final game. So to begin with, you can clearly see Trorks scattered around the place, along with humans, of course. There's blue Trorks and green Trorks, which I believe are just different variants of Trorks. I also see what looks like a small leaf girl. She has green hair and everything and doesn't look like a Quebec. However, it might just be that you can customize the size of characters and it's just a small green-skinned, green-haired girl. I don't know. There's a cat-eared character similar to one I saw earlier, or perhaps it's just the same player, but I'm going to go with it being a new race for now, since that's two evidences of it. There's what looks like a furry character, which I believe is a Slothian at the front. And there's also, of course, Quebecs. There's a dark elf, there's different types of Quebec, including a brown Quebec, such as the one that we saw with the golem earlier. There's a character with a pot on their head, could be a dwarf, but I can't really tell from here. And there's a baby Quebec, I believe, just somewhere really small hiding out. What I'm curious of is will all the races be playable in this game? All the intelligent NPC races? Because there's quite a few of them. They did say there were several races that were playable shown in the trailer, and the only race they've confirmed to be playable other than humans are the dark elf looking thing. However, the only other races I've seen are the ones confirmed to be intelligent tribes in Hytale. So perhaps we can play as whatever tribe or whatever race we want, and maybe it'll change our interactions with these NPCs depending on what type of race we are. Like if we're Scarix. Actually, I don't think we're going to be Scarix, to be honest, but anything other than Scarix, potentially. We're finally nearing the end, thank God, and we only have a couple more things left to show, but you can take a quick pan to the theater and see a cute doggo. Next we have world painting, which is basically tools to make it much easier to shape your world, to build maps and all sorts of creations, and this will be really nice, especially for map builders, in order to quickly make their maps for people to enjoy. And funnily enough, Minecraft had similar programs that made it easier to build gigantic structures. It had World Edit for in-game sort of quick building, and MC Edit for an external program that you can quickly edit the worlds in. Heck, there was even a program called World Painter in Minecraft that did a similar thing to this, where you can just click with a wand and it'll automatically paint all sorts of things onto the surface of your world. This seems to be taking all that, but putting it into a simple, easy-to-use thing in-game, and this will just make it so much more convenient for the layman to make their own worlds, to edit it, and make gigantic builds without too much effort. You could just sculpt mountains just at the click of a button. It's so easy here, and I really love that. This is the last section that's really dense with info, and that is the Make Movies section, which is a new thing they have in Hytale in order to aid content creators in making new types of videos, trailers, making machinimas and their own custom videos, using camera tools and all sorts of stuff like that. And to be honest, looking at this clip that they're showing here, it looks almost unreal. It looks like it's a made-up thing that they just made for the trailer, like they just added some stuff together in an animation. But I think this is actually in-game, otherwise why would they have that frame thing at the top left where it's showing the exact frame of the recording they're on? It shows the recording as it's being made at the top right, which I assume is what the final show will look like. Heck, it even shows some red cubes and green cubes, which seem like activation switches for a variety of events, because when you see the slowdown video, as those are interacted with or touched, different events happen in the recording at the top right. And this is really cool. Like, there's even a green screen in the bag, which I assume you can throw stuff onto. There's some new blocks, such as the stacked iron at the top left. There's people sitting at a computer, a freaking computer, inside of Hytale. This seems really complex, though. Like, are these cables like the redstone of the Hytale world? Because it looks like there's actual cables going from the PC that they're recording the broadcast on to the camera that's on a minecart track that's allowing for you to make a moving video. And it's also connecting to all the switches that are doing a variety of things. They might use actual cables for electricity in Hytale along with advanced technology like computers and cameras. That's super cool. And I'm wondering if there's all sorts of other devices as advanced as this that do many different things like cameras and everything. This just opens a whole world of possibilities. I can't even begin to unpack this stuff. It's just insane, and I'm sure there's going to be tons more for us to learn as they make more blog post entries. So, just take a look at the slow-mo and how the explosions occur as they hit those blocks. Here we have live scripting, which is Hytale really bragging about how customizable it is in-game. And I'm not a programmer, so I'm probably going to define this horribly wrong, But live scripting is basically getting some code to run to change up the game while the game is live and running, while you're in it, basically. And you can see how they're doing it right here at the top left. They're entering certain types of codes, it's performing operations to cause things to occur. Unfortunately, the code they're showing here is completely different from what's happening on screen, so this is clearly a scripted thing. See what I did there? I hate myself. Also, if we zoom in on the code that they're actually scripting in here, it seems to be making it so that whenever an entity, I assume the creature here, collides with a player, the player is automatically set to adventure mode, and additionally, the player is automatically teleported to 000, which I assume is the origin of the world. I'm not sure if this really means anything, and they're really trying to hide stuff because it has a website link. It says www.hytale.com/supersecret-page. Now, I'm going to leave what's on super secret page as surprise for now, because if you made it this far in the video, you deserve to be able to look it up on your own and get a nice little surprise, because it is a nice little surprise, so hopefully you enjoy it. Okay, adventurers, we're at the final stretch now. We're going to speed to the end, and by speed to the end, I mean play it on slow-mo. So here we have a skeleton skull with a rusty sword stuck into it, and our 3 intrepid adventurers are getting attacked by skeletons. Ugh, you need to go away, skeletons. You're very rude to our adventurers right now. But our adventurers know how to defend themselves with a shield bash, which I'm not sure will be in the real game because this looks like an animated cutscene to me. But there is the ice staff, which has a different effect from the fire staff in that it creates a wave of ice rather than just shooting an ice ball. So staffs will have different effects. And I think that's basically all that's left. There is the Void Dragon just ahead, which is likely a servant of Varen found on the Nexus planet. But that's really all for now. I'm stressed out, I need food, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm gonna get some sleep. Hopefully you guys learned something from this analysis, hopefully it was fun, and I hope you all are looking forward to Hytale as much as I am. It's going to be awesome, guys. See ya later.